When it comes to investing your money, the decision between growth ETFs, which have the purpose to put your money away now for it to grow larger and larger over time, or dividend ETFs that provide the ability to earn an income. Both are great options for investors, but what most get wrong is that it truly depends on your situation, and the wrong choice could easily cost anyone watching this at least tens to hundreds of thousands of dollars and even your own retirement. But knowing that, before we get started, my name is Sully. I run the company InvestLane with the mission to help others save and invest wisely to build lasting wealth. And all I ask is that if you do find value in this video, that you consider hitting the like, subscribe, and notifications button for future content like this. With that said, let's start this off by first going over growth ETFs. Now, if you've seen my previous content, you'll know that ETFs, which are short for exchange traded funds, they're a super easy way to pretty much own hundreds to thousands of different investments all within one purchase. And so for growth ETFs in particular, the bundle of stocks that you can buy all at once, they're now going to be focused on companies with growth potential. But before I explain how that's determined, just know a few of the top growth ETFs in the market, at least for large cap US stock exposure, that would be through either Invesco's QQQ, Vanguard's growth ETF VUG, or Charles Schwab's SCHG. And also know that you can pick growth ETFs for other equities like small cap, mid cap, or international stocks. Now, I'm just going to use Vanguard's VUG for this example, where on Vanguard's page, you can see that this fund seeks to track the performance of the CRSP US Large Cap Growth Index. In simple words, this fund provides a convenient way to match the performance of many of the nation's largest growth stocks. But the question to understand now is, how do they determine what growth means? Now, CRSP, which stands for the Center for Research and Security Prices, which is one of the largest index providers in the industry, looking at their methodology guide, you can see how they evaluate growth companies, where they analyze 6 growth factors that consist of future long-term growth in earnings per share, future short-term growth in earnings per share, 3-year historical growth in earnings per share, 3-year historical growth in sales per share, the current investment to asset ratio, and return on assets, where they even show the exact process to their calculations if you want to spend time learning more about this. And if you want to pause the video here to learn about what each of the factors means, feel free to do so. But to just quickly summarize what you get when you buy a growth ETF like VUG, the fund launched in 2004. It currently contains 151 stocks that are large cap US companies, where you can see some of the top companies in the fund you've probably heard of, like Nvidia, Apple, and Microsoft, that each make up 9 to even 13% of the weight toward the fund, which means that these 3 companies alone cover over 30% of the entire fund. This is a common thing that you'll see with many of the other growth ETFs that I mentioned, because the indexes that they track, they are market cap weighted, which means the companies that are in the fund, they are given weight based on their size. Which, while I'm on it, for VUG, notice how technology is by far the largest sector in the fund by having roughly 65% of the weight in technology alone. But what most love to see with these funds is that historically they have done very well, where over the past 10 years, VUG has averaged about 17.5% per year, and since 2004, it has averaged 11.7% per year. I'll explain why that matters so much later in the video, but just realize that if you had $100,000 just sitting in VUG over the past 10 years, by today, you would now have $500,000. Which, not to mention, but the fact that you can get exposure to VUG and all those holdings for just a 0.04% of an annual fee, which is known as the expense ratio, which all that means is that for every $10,000 that you invest, it would cost you $4 per year to own it. And do know that this is automatically taken out of your investment over time. It's not something that you have to pay separately. All right, so knowing that about growth ETFs, let's now quickly go over dividend ETFs. Now, there are many different types of dividend ETFs that you could look for, and if you want to see many of the top options in our free index fund cheat sheet, all that linked in the description below. But realize that there are many different types of dividend ETFs that could be growth, core, value, and even high income ETFs that are all based on the structure, and the choice really comes down to what you're looking for. For example, a well-known growth dividend ETF is the iShares Core Dividend Growth ETF DGRO. A top core ETF could be the Schwab US Dividend Equity ETF SCHD, a rising value dividend ETF that is the Capital Group Dividend Value ETF that is also actively managed, but so far it has done very well. Or you may even consider a high income producing ETF like JP Morgan's combo of JPI and JPQ. Now, I have to mention that I have created a ton of content around ETFs, and if you want to learn more, I'll have plenty of free resources in the description of this video that I think could really help you out. And while you're at it, don't forget to subscribe subscribe with notifications on for future content like this. But of all the dividend ETFs to choose from, I find SCHD to be one of, if not the best overall choice. And to give you a feel for how this works, realize that this fund tracks the Dow Jones US Dividend 100 Index. To better understand the structure, notice how this index is designed to measure the performance of high dividend yielding stocks issued by US companies that have a record of consistently paying dividends, selected for fundamental strength relative to their peers based on financial ratios. Also know that the eligible stocks must have sustained at least 10 consecutive years of dividend payments, have a minimum float adjusted market cap of $500 million, and meet minimum liquidity needs. Now, this fund is very well structured. It has a low expense ratio of 0.06%. It currently has 104 holdings, with top companies in the fund being Chevron, Verizon, Coca-Cola, or Pepsi, that each have around 4% of the weight toward the fund. Not to mention, but the fund is well diversified, especially compared to that growth fund, where you can see here that the top sectors would be energy, consumer staples, and healthcare that are well diversified. But notice how over the past 10 years, SCHD has averaged an annual return of 13.37%, which is lower than VUG, and that number also includes the expense ratio factored into it, and it assumes that you reinvest the dividends. Which, speaking of dividends, SCHD has paid out a 3.43% dividend yield over the trailing 12 months, making it a strong option for those that want an income and still see true appreciation on your underlying investment. But even with SCHD being such a strong dividend ETF, we now have to go over what most investors get wrong about growth and dividend investing. All right, so the first thing that most get wrong about growth investing in particular is that you're not going to get rich overnight, and you also have a lot of risk if you're hoping to take the money out soon. You see, if we look at the history of QQQ, you can see that the fund has had some really bad years where you could easily have lost over 30% in a year, where you can see over the dot-com bubble era, that alone was 3 consecutive years in a row that really hurt many investors. But knowing that, let's just use a simple example where you have $500,000 in savings and you are hoping to retire in 2 years, and you want to grow that amount large enough so that you could easily have enough to retire off of, because you believe, let's just say, that it's not enough right now. Because of that, you decide to put everything into QQQ because it contains 100 companies, so you feel that the risk is fairly low for the growth potential that you could get. But let's just say now that there's a poor market for the next 2 years and QQQ declines 25% each year. It doesn't happen often, but it can definitely happen. And do realize that the dot-com bubble example that I mentioned earlier, it was much worse than this. But realize that all this means is that your initial $500,000 that took pretty much your entire career to build up, after 2 years, that would now have declined to $281,000. And even worse, you are just now getting ready to retire. And so if you're in a position at or near retirement, this is a huge lesson to learn, because now your portfolio is significantly less, and in order for you to get back to $500,000, you would now need your investments to grow almost 80%. So not just is the risk super high, but at this point in your life, you don't have the time to let it grow back. And even worse, if you need to take an income, it's going to be a lot harder to get a sufficient income from that, and you're likely going to run out of the funds and have to go back to work for many more years of your life. Now, if we switch the topic and now touch on dividend ETFs, the problem isn't quite as damaging up front, but when you look at the hidden numbers on paper, for those that are not using them properly, you may really want to reconsider. All right, so let's just say here that you are 25 years old and you have inherited $50,000 that you want to invest. The first scenario here is, let's say that you plan to have a little bit of passive income that you want, and so you decide to put all $50,000 into SCHD. If you did this over the past 10 years, starting from January 2017 to February 2026, then that means that you would have taken a small income every quarter, which is every 3 months, and year over year, the dividends would increase, which is great to see, and that's why many investors love SCHD. But not just that, but after 10 years, your $50,000 would have also grown at an annual rate of 8.91%, leaving you with $109,000 at age 35. That sounds great, but let me explain if you were to take the scenario 2, where you don't care for the income, and all you want to do is know that down the road, you can have a nest egg for worst case scenarios, kids, or personal wants, so you decide to put all $50,000 into a large cap growth ETF like SCHG. While this portfolio would have generated a very low income, that's actually the point of doing this, because the growth-oriented companies here would rather use their profits to reinvest for further growth rather than thanking shareholders for owning their stock. And so with SCHG, if you held this over the past 10 years, you would have turned $50,000 into now $220,000 by averaging nearly double the growth rate as SCHD. Now, there are two huge factors to consider here, and the first is that with SCHD, you took out a 3.4% yield out of the annualized returns, and then the second is that with large cap growth companies, they tend to outperform dividend stocks over time, especially in bull markets. And I have to add the last point that I love to see with growth investing is that the dividend yield for SCHD is super low at 0.39% over the past year. So realize that the difference here between sacrificing a very small income to invest purely into growth, it would now leave your future self with double the amount in value. And not just that, but don't forget that dividends are taxed regardless on if you reinvest them or not. And even though SCHD could be treated the majority as qualified dividends, which means that they could be treated as long-term capital gains with much more favorable tax rates in the range of 0, 15, or 20%, dividend investments as a whole can still lead to significant tax reg, making the end result even worse. But the craziest part of all is that let's just say things are going well for you and your career, so you let your investment ride another 10 years in hopes to help with retirement or other future goals. And by doing this entirely through SCHD, assuming the same growth rate of 8.91%, that means your end portfolio by age 45, after 20 total years of doing this, would now be $275,000. Where if that were SCHG for growth, you would have close to $1.3 million, which is almost 5 times the end value. All right, so now that you can see where both investors can be wrong, here are the key takeaways to go forward with. Now, if you didn't realize, the first example showed an investor that is going all in on growth when they were at or near retirement, where the second example I mentioned someone younger that is investing into dividends, and so that you could understand the trade-off if you were to do that instead of investing into growth. The biggest reason why I designed this video this way is because between each of those strategies, they may seem very well up front and a good idea to go forward with, but the truth is, when it comes to investing, one of the simplest yet most effective lessons to learn here with your money is that if you want to invest, you would ideally want to look for growth now, dividends later. The reason for growth now in the earlier years of your career is so that you have the ability for your investment to gain some leverage to truly compound, and with growth investments, they're also very tax efficient, which allows you to keep even more money in your own pocket as you invest over time. Now, the examples that I mentioned earlier, I exaggerated greatly, but the truth is, even a 1 to 2% of an annual difference over time, even if you reinvest the dividends, that has a huge impact on your future wealth. You see, if you have 30 years to invest and you average the standard stock market return with the S&P 500, that is 10% per year, starting with $50,000 and you invest $500 per month, that means you would end with almost $2 million. But if you instead bought dividend ETFs or even had a financial advisor with high fees, regardless of the cause, a 2% difference per year would end up costing you $700,000 in potential gains. In the end, the choice really comes down to your own situation and risk tolerance. But before buying any ETFs, that is crucial to think about, since you'd rather prevent the damage before it's too late. And so, to give my favorite example for the growth now, dividends later example, if you were doing this in a Roth IRA starting at age 25 and you plan to hit the max contribution limit every year, which is equivalent to $625 every month, $7,500 every year, and you do this until you're 60, then in retirement, you would have just over $2.1 million. And best of all, that amount in the end through the Roth means that it would be completely tax-free. That alone is exactly why I recommend the Roth IRA as my favorite go-to investment account, because the impact of having enough savings at retirement is crucial, and the benefit of tax-free growth during the years of investing, and at the end, you get everything completely tax-free, it definitely outweighs the cost up front. And so the entire point behind growth now, dividends later, and even the Roth IRA example of building it up to $2 million, it's that with that account, you can change the investments at any time without triggering taxes. So as you near retirement, you can easily rotate to dividend ETFs, and that would allow you to easily generate a strong income that is completely tax-free, while the account can still grow in value if you'd like, and at that point, you have the decision on more dividends or more growth potential. All in all, the choice is up to you, but the data shows the best strategy is growth now in your younger years to reap dividends later after you've accumulated a significant portfolio, and the biggest thing from there is to just not get those two mixed up. Now, if you want to see many of the top growth and dividend ETFs to consider that are all in one place, I'll have a direct link in the description below to our free index fund cheat sheet. And while you're at it, if you want to start investing on a new platform or check out top IRAs to get started with, I'll have a direct link to some of the top options currently available in the market. And as always, don't forget to hit the like, subscribe, and notifications button for future content like this.